I'm sorry I have to make these videos in parts because the little video maker I'm using only allows certain minutes per video, so I had to cut it short. So let me get back on course. I spent my whole life battling loneliness. As a child, I had friends. Then as a young adult, I lost all interest in keeping social bonds. It's like a wall of depression and anxiety started to isolate me, started to close in on me. It got so bad, I didn't want to live anymore. Existing every day hurt. I thought maybe that if I didn't exist, I would actually have peace. And I didn't have nothing to offer this world. So it's kind of like, it felt like there wouldn't be no difference if I was alive or dead. Also, at this time in my life, I was in my late teens and I was having demonic night terrors, anxiety attacks, dreams of being attacked by demons, crossed into sleep paralysis as I got older. During that part of my life, I was fascinated by dark music, movies, etc. Anything that was negative seemed to be attractive to me. And I also became interested in witchcraft because I used to read a lot of Wiccan books, and it was just what was drawing me. It was just interesting at that time. Now I look back on this, and it's funny because as I was getting into darker things, I also started to feel this bitter hatred towards God. I thought, why wasn't he here? I hated everything. Thoughts of sadness and rage polluted my mind. It was torture. The same hatred I had for God, I had for myself. I wanted to die in the most gruesome ways. And when I would think of death, it was more of a comfort, a release. It eventually led to a suicide attempt. And I do mean attempt. But only by the grace of God I didn't succeed. I only had superficial cuts on my wrist. If I would have died that day, I know I would have been in hell that same day. So yeah, God's grace was on me. So, in my 20s, I drifted to the city, surrounded by people, but feeling like the loneliest person in the world. The suicidal thoughts didn't stop. The thoughts were still a form of comfort that I was hanging on to. As I got older, the thoughts eased off. I still wasn't happy. I just learned to bury my unhappiness. The anger and self-hatred from my youth had cooled. Well, anyways, skip forward to February 2020. I was outside raking leaves and I started looking back on my life. I started to realize my whole life had trouble with bonding in relationships, even with God. It's like a wall was around me. It made me a prisoner of my own heart, and I was becoming comfortable with being invisible. I just felt like I was a nobody. So, what better way to exist than just being invisible? With all these thoughts running through my mind, I began to cry. Something inside me said, "Your future is written. There is no hope for you." And my heart began to break because I knew that this was true. I knew I was void of love, even for myself. As I looked up at the sun, I was looking for a sign that God was actually listening. At that moment, I couldn't feel Him. All I felt was the cold wind blowing on my face. My heart was breaking, and it felt like He didn't even care. Even though I figured He wasn't listening, I thought, "God, I'm satisfied with my unhappiness." In that moment, I gave up on my life without dying. I just gave up on God.